Okay, so there's this article in blastingnews.com from Chris Hughes titled, "Why a Genuinely Libertarian Party is an Oxymoron." And I think this is a perfect example of just how people miss the point. Even libertarians, this guy is apparently a libertarian, but he's trying to make the case, as his subtitle says, "Party politics prevents the emergence of a libertarian political philosophy." And he is just wrong on so many levels, so let's just start going through it. As a political force, it is impossible to see how a libertarian political philosophy could function within a party political system. Okay, right here, right off the bat, we have an argument from incredulity. An interesting thing about the argument of incredulity is they're usually phrased like this. What he's really saying is he doesn't see how it could happen, but he doesn't see how it could happen becomes it is impossible for it to happen, or it is impossible to see it happen, or whatever. Because apparently he is absolutely the most intelligent and clever and imaginative person on the planet, and if he can't see it, no one else must either. So, not off to a good start, and in fact, the whole rest of his article just kind of belies that, because, I mean, it's actually pretty easy to see. It'll have difficulties, of course, and there'll be a lot of people opposing it, but we'll get into what his argument is, and you'll see how wrong it is. For libertarianism to emerge as a political force, the party political system would need to break down first. Well, while that would be nice, and I'd love to see that happen, I don't really think it's that likely, and I'm not just going to sit on my thumbs waiting for it to happen. And the rest of this paragraph, he talks about the UK, but I think the points I'm making apply not only to the UK, but to the US and everywhere else there's a libertarian party. So let's just go on. Libertarianism is incompatible with party politics because a libertarian sees themselves purely as an I, an individual. They do not construct a notion of we, and the idea of being a we is essentially to forming a party. I think he means essential to forming a party. Yeah, he was doing really well up until that last clause. Yes, libertarianism is an individualist philosophy. That's what it is, that's what it does, that's how it works. We do not construct a notion of the we, and you've heard me talk about the we and the not we, how it's a kind of groupthink, how you not just identify yourself with this group, but it becomes actually part of your identity, not just a descriptor. You know, for me, libertarian is a descriptor. I follow the NAP, therefore I'm a libertarian. You know, like you have blonde hair or something. But it's when you go beyond that and have a concept of groupthink that it becomes the problem. I'm a white guy, and someone else might be a black guy, and that's just the color of our skin. But if we go beyond that and we make that a part of our identity, that's where racism comes from. But the problem is, he's completely wrong when he says that being a we is essential to forming a party. Basically what he's saying is there's no way libertarians can get together and form a group. And that's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, we're a bunch of opinionated individualists. And if you've ever been to a Libertarian Party meeting, you could see, yeah, unity is not really something we're that big on. We're kind of too far the other way. We could do with a little more unity. But he says, quote, "Party politics requires entering into a tribal we identity. This we constructs itself in opposition to the other, what I call the not we. In other words, party politics requires identifying as part of a tribal we, e.g. labor, and thus loathing the other, e.g. conservatives. It doesn't have to be that way. Identifying yourself as something is different from making that a part of a tribal identity. Libertarians have in common the non-aggression principle. People who are not libertarians believe in aggression of some form, some initiation of force that they think is moral or necessary to achieve their goals. We reject that as a matter of intellectual and moral thinking. Okay, but it's not part of any tribal thing. You see, if you're a Democrat and you fall into tribal thinking, then you think, okay, when it comes to abortion, it's a woman's right to choose. But what about a woman's right to accept a job at less than minimum wage? Oh no, that's not her right. She's being exploited. You know, it's the same way if you're on the other side, if you're being a conservative. You know, government should not interfere in the market. unless it's the drug market, in which case we need prohibition. So you've got all these different contradictory things come together, and really the only way you can hold those together in your head without just brimming over with cognitive dissonance is through this tribal mentality. Here is a list of things that we agree with. And if you're not on this list of things that we agree with, then you're the other, you're the not we. Well, that's not how libertarianism works. As long as you don't want to do it by force, we don't care. I've said this in other videos. If we're in a perfect libertarian society, and you're a Marxist, and you agree that the workers should control the means of production, then by all means, when you hire a worker, give them a share of the company. No one's going to stop you from doing it. No libertarian is going to stop you from doing that. If you're a communist and you want to get some land, and you're not, stealing it from someone or anyone like that, but, you go out and you homestead land or legally acquire it somehow, and you say, okay, we're going to have our little communist commune here, and I'm going to be with like-minded people who want the same thing. That's fine. Go and set that up. Go and set up your Venus project. Go do whatever you want. We don't care as long as you're not forcing anyone. That's it. So, libertarianism is not compatible with this becoming a we. The libertarian is an individual, and therefore becoming a we libertarians is oxymoronic. Instead of being a tribal we, libertarianism is all about the individual being an individual. However, being a part of politics requires losing individual identity to become part of a we, e.g., we the Labor Party. He asserts it again. He does absolutely nothing to support it, and it's just not true. In essence, the construction of party politics prevents the emergence of libertarian political philosophy. Party politics requires the coming together of I's to become we's, and a political philosophy that prioritizes an I above all else, and where being a we would be an oxymoron, prevents libertarianism from emerging as a political force. Now, if he would just rephrase that to get rid of this conceptual block that he has, I would agree with it insofar as it's difficult to do as long as you've got the Democrats and Republicans acting like it's the Super Bowl and they're cheering on their sporting teams. That's difficult to deal with because there are so many things we agree with Democrats on. In fact, we're better at Democrats at a lot of things, including gay rights, the drug war, things like that. But then as soon as we get into economic areas, they're the ones putting us into the not we. And then we're just like the Republicans, no difference, whatever. They have no intellectual basis for that, of course, but of course it's not intellectual. It's just this we and not we thinking. Same with the Republicans. They love our stance on the free market, but as soon as we get to gay marriage, they don't want anything to do with us. Again, it's just this list of things. Libertarians don't care as long as you're not forcing people. That is our opposition, and that is why we see the Democrats and Republicans as being the same, because they both believe in the initiation of force to achieve their goals. They may be different goals, but we don't really care. It's the force we care about. And it is true that the individualistic nature of libertarians means it's hard to come together in things like party unity, and that's something we need to work on, but we don't have to give up our individualism to do it. We can come together as like-minded people without giving up who we are. We can form groups. We do it all the time. I mean, this is nothing but a restatement of what a lot of people who aren't libertarians criticize libertarians of being, oh, you just want to be this island where it's all about you and you don't want to have to care about anyone else or have anything to do about anyone else. Well, I mean, if someone wanted to do that, if they wanted to go out into the woods and live as a hermit or something, we're fine with that. There's no force behind that. But what we're talking about is creating a marketplace. And marketplaces are all about people coming together and doing things. And one of the things we want to come together and do is form a party where we can at least have some form of opposition against all this political force. So he has this central assumption that he uses, that he doesn't support, that he just asserts, and then it colors the entire basis of his argument. And he finishes off, quote, despite the suggestion that the party political system is breaking down, that would really be nice if that were happening, this seems to be a rather premature prediction. The adversarial idea of we in battle with and the terrible other is still dominant in politics. Okay, that I'll agree with. This is not abating but exacerbating because the current parties in Britain are pitching themselves more against the other, e.g. Labour is condemning the Tories, more than it is creating a vision. Okay, same in America with the Democrats and Republicans. We're in the same situation. We're diagnosing the same problem. We agree on what the problem is. That's good. What unites parties is the tribal mentality of being a we, being Labour as opposed to Tory. It is this kind of think that libertarianism just cannot do because libertarians don't want to be a we, just an I. Well, I think this is where it breaks down. Because, as I've said before, whether it's Labour Party or Conservative Party or Democrat Party or Republican Party, what they believe is so disjointed and inconsistent, you have to have this idea of groupthink. You have to have this idea of groupthink if you want to be able to hold all those positions together at one time. I mean, there's just nothing else you can do. There's no consistency there. Libertarianism is consistent. It's based on first principles. Really, all you need in the Libertarian Party platform is one sentence, and you should be able to predict what all of our positions are going to be based on that one sentence. We do not condone the initiation of force as a means of achieving social or political goals. Take that, apply it. That's really all it is. We don't need the groupthink. We don't need it. Because we don't have any cognitive dissonance. We don't have any inconsistencies that need to be taken care of. And yes, we can disagree all over the place about how people should live their lives. What we agree about is that we shouldn't force other people into that. And yes, that does mean that libertarianism is actually a big tent. People come from all walks of life. There are religious people and there are atheists, all in the Libertarian Party. And there's all sorts of different religions. There's quite a number of Muslim libertarians and Middle Eastern libertarians. And yeah, that's going to mean a clash of cultures and a clash of beliefs and a clash of opinions. And where we kind of fall off the wagon a little bit is where we forget that it's not really about that. It's about standing arm in arm saying, you shall not use force to get what you want. It doesn't matter if the person I'm linking arms with is an atheist or a Christian or a Muslim or whoever. As long as he doesn't want to initiate force against anyone, then he is with me on this. And this is why I've said what Harry Browne said many times. I'm not going to stick out my foot and trip up someone who's trying to move in the same direction I am. I mean, I'm skeptical about seasteading, for example. But I'm not going to do anything to try and stop them. I'm not going to do anything to try and discourage them. I'm encouraging them. I'm saying, yeah, go for it. It might work. I'm skeptical it will, but it'll be interesting to see. At least it's something different that people are trying. Same with the Free State Project, same with the Libertarian Party. All of these. So yeah, this is a very simplistic view of things. And it really just seems to be a conflation of this word we. There's kind of a bait and switch. There's we as in the we and the not we, my group and the out group. But there's also we as just a pronoun, where you're just talking about more than one individual. And libertarians are actually trying to make people aware of this, and I know I do this too, but when people say things like, well, we are over in Iraq, no, we aren't in Iraq. Our government is in Iraq. Our military is in Iraq. I'm not in Iraq. I am not at war. They are in Iraq. The government is they, not we. The military is they, not we. Unless you're a member of the military, I guess, but anyway, not a very long article, and it's really just that one issue that he has, that one problem of conflating this word we from being anytime people come together to achieve a common goal and groupthink. Those aren't the same thing. So please keep that in mind, and please do not let this stop you from being active in politics. Please do not let this stop you from opposing any sort of violation of our rights or any sort of initiation of force, whether it's done by Democrats, Republicans, Tories, Labor, whatever. Do not let it stop you. Until next time, stay strong and be free.